Hello, everyone. My name is Ross Signal with Dranitz Technologies. Thanks for joining us today. Our session today is going to be a live tour of PQView and PQView DE. We have joining us today, we are remote in the times of COVID. We're trying to stay as remote as possible and as separate. So joining us today, who will do the majority of the presentation, is Thurman Bridgers. Also supporting us today is Ken DeMario. Again, we are remote, so please communicate with us via the chat capability of Zoom. We're going to be handling our Q&A with the chat, so please chat to everyone, or if you have a specific question to Ken, Thurman, or myself, feel free to directly chat to us. So thank you for joining us today. We have now completed our 2020 online training, web training. Thank you for your participation. Thought I would share some statistics and some numbers. Overall, we've had over 2,200 total registrations for our web presentations this fall, or this entire year. So thank you for your participation. And we have representation from over 60 countries around the world. Virtually every continent has been registered. So thank you again, and we do appreciate those who are way out of our time zone joining us. It's greatly appreciated. But if you've missed some of our presentations, we started to record them in the summer. So we have recordings from our summer and our fall presentations, and they are posted on our website. We have a Dranitz webcast page, and there's the URL right there. So it's under our support tab on our website. We'll have, after today's presentation, 13 recordings of all the sessions that we've done since the summer of 2020. We do plan on continuing these presentations into 2021. We're going to take a little bit of a break, so probably towards the end of January, mid to end of January, you'll start hearing about our presentations. If you do have suggestions for presentations, please feel free to chat them or contact us. Tech support at Dranitz.com. You can certainly email up any suggestions or send a suggestion in through our website. We're certainly here for the chats. So what we're going to talk about today is a live tour of PQView and PQView DE. I'm going to give you a little bit of background on the software, some differentiation on those two pieces of software, and then we're going to turn it over to Thurman, who's going to do a live presentation of both of those softwares. They're very similar. There are some differences between them that we will highlight during the presentations. And again, please chat up your questions. Like all of our sessions, we will definitely get to all the questions at the end. If we can squeeze in time during the presentations, we'll answer your questions during that time. And as I mentioned before, today's presentation will be recorded. It will be posted on our website a little bit later on in the week. So for those of you who are new to our presentations, just a little bit about Dranitz. We are located and headquartered in Edison, New Jersey. You can see this is where Edison is. I'm actually a little bit south and west at my home right now. And you can see we're very close to New York City. We have a lot of people who, prior to COVID, would visit us under a guise to go see Dranitz. They'd go visit New York City, which is their actual intent. So hopefully in several months, when COVID calms down, we can welcome folks back at our facility. We're in a very good and convenient location. So I threw in a slide about our ownership, and this is important, and it goes to our presentation today. As I've mentioned before, we are owned by a company based in Nuremberg, Germany, called Gauss and Metrowatt. We have 3 operating companies here in the United States. We have Dranitz, of course, which is the largest of the 3. A smaller company called Daytronic, who makes general data acquisition equipment. They are located in Dayton, Ohio. And we have a sister company, another one called Knoxville, Tennessee, with offices in Massachusetts and in, they're called Electrotech Concepts, with offices in Knoxville and in Beverly, Massachusetts. The reason why they're circled here is we operate very synergistically, Dranitz and Electrotech actually is the author and originated PQView back in the 1990s. And the current version is PQView 4, and PQView DE is based upon PQView. So it's important to understand the relationship between the two organizations. And we have merged sales organizations between Electrotech and Dranitz as well. So when you speak to a Dranitz salesperson, you can also certainly speak to them about Electrotech products and PQView and some of the other products and services that Electrotech can offer. So Dranitz's product and service portfolio, which is inclusive of the Electrotech products, are portable three-phase power quality, demand, and energy instrumentation. We have fixed systems, permanently installed equipment for power quality, demand, and energy, all three of those combined or as individuals. And of course, each major part of our product portfolio has its own software. For portable, it's DranView. For our fixed and permanent products, it's PQView DE or PQView. As I mentioned before, we are owned by a company called Gaussen Metrowatt. We are the US and North American master distributor of their products. And Gaussen Metrowatt manufactures products such as precision multimeters and testers, electrical safety testers, insulation testers, and installation and other types of testers, as well as light meters under the brand called Gaussen Photo. Dranitz offers free technical support. This is actually part of that today in our prior web presentations. We are very proud of that. We take a lot of pride in getting back to you in a very timely fashion, and our customers develop relationships with our tech support people, which are primarily Ken and Thurman, and to a lesser extent myself. We do offer remote and on-site training. On-site training has calmed down a little bit in the times of COVID, and most of our training has moved to remote, but these are paid for services that go beyond our free technical support. This is where we develop training just for your application and your team. We want to make sure that you know how to connect our instrumentation properly, you know how to do the analysis of it, you know how to use our application software, and we want to help you through that process from connecting all the way to getting data out of the systems. And this is paid for training, so feel free to contact us, and we're happy to work something out with you. Our website is dranitz.com. You probably know that because that's where you registered for this presentation. It is not only a library of our products and an online catalog of our products, but it's a library of educational material. These videos, as I mentioned, are posted there, as well as application notes, white papers about our products, and just general industry information as well. And something to just point out, that products designed by Dranitz are made in the USA. They're made in Edison, New Jersey at our headquarters. So anything that we sell that is blue, it's usually designed by Dranitz. In the same building it is manufactured. So we're proud to say made in the USA. Just to put some eyeballs and some photos on the products that we're talking about, we have our portable HDPQ Plus and HDPQ SP family, our new Dran Expert instrument, which is a power demand and basic PQ logger. And these are all compatible with various versions of our DranView software. Moving into the fixed systems, our fixed systems are our HDPQ data nodes, 61000s. We have PQ3K and 5K, and the AM series energy only meters, as well as our PQView and PQView DE software that are used to communicate with these devices and or the user interface for our fixed devices. And again, this is what we're going to be focusing on in today's web meeting. And last but not least, these are samples of the Gaussen Metrowatt products. If you see a product in green, that most likely originated in Germany or from one of our other sister companies and is a Gaussen Metrowatt product. And you can see precision multimeters, electrical testers. This is a Gaussen light meter, as well as machine and other types of testers. So this is our product and service portfolio. So what we're going to talk about today, and we'll get started here. Basically, this is our fixed systems software portfolio. We're going to be focusing on the first two, where we have PQView DE and its intended uses for Dranitz meters, and PQView, which its intended uses for Dranitz or third-party meters. So that's one of the differentiating capabilities between PQView and PQView DE, which we'll expand upon a little bit later. We also have what's called Smart Collect software, which communicates with our AM 1000, 2000, 3000 and other energy and power quality meters that we offer, as well as we now offer a SCADA package called Dran SCADA for use with Dranitz and other meters using Modbus and other communication protocols. And as like any SCADA package, and here's an image of it or a picture over here, it's a very visual software, nice new modern foundation for Dran SCADA. So again, we're going to focus on PQView DE and PQView here, but please contact us with any questions regarding our other software packages. So first, what is PQView? PQView is power quality analysis and reporting software. It originated in the 1990s as part of an EPRI DPQ project that was funded by EPRI and utility partners. Fast forward to today, the current version of PQView is PQView 4, which came out roughly about 3-4 years ago. It's a very modern software. It was developed by Electrotech in collaboration with EPRI and its utility partners, as I said. The major benefits and features are, first of all, being a modern package, a responsive web-enabled user interface. And what that means, it automatically adjusts to the size of the screen. So it's just as comfortable operating on a full-size desktop computer screen down to a laptop, to a tablet, to a smartphone. And what responsive means is that it knows the size of the screen. It can easily adjust and present the information accordingly. That's opposed to having a full-size website shrunk down. It's a data concentrator compatible with meters and software from many manufacturers. That's a huge benefit of PQView. Although we'd love for you to be using Dranitz products, we know that's just not a practical request. So PQView can pull together data very easily from various manufacturers or various meters from different manufacturers into one database and view the data simultaneously within the capabilities of the individual meters. It can't create data from meters that don't provide that data, but data that all your meters provide, it can present in a parallel fashion, and you can overlay data. So its power is in its data visualization from all of this, and its website, and the ability to pull in data from dissimilar meters from different manufacturers. It provides robust and powerful data analytics that are very configurable. Thurman will go in and elaborate on that. Customizable compliance reporting. We have fixed compliance reporting, such as maybe EN 5160 for Europe and other parts of the world, but you can create, and we can create for you, customizable compliance to meet the needs of your company, your utility, or your country that you may live in. Fallpoint fault location. This is where you can identify a fault based upon electrical measurements from your meters using some algorithms in PQView. And additional customizable capabilities and components. So this is a living, breathing product that is actually developed with input from the users. There's an annual user group meeting. We just had it, I believe it was the beginning of October, and input from those meetings and direct correspondences with our customers help evolve PQView, not only identify things we need to improve, but additional features and capabilities. And of course, it can be customized for your particular application like a lot of our users do. Just to note, PQView is available in 3 editions to meet various budgets and needs, starting with Express, then going into Standard, and going into Professional. Those editions can get a little complicated. And if you do have an interest in PQView, if you're not an owner right now, we're happy to talk to you about the different versions and help choose the one that's appropriate for your application. Now, to compare and contrast, what is PQView DE? Well, DE was developed by Electrotech. It is PQView. It's kind of a subset of PQView. The DE means Dranitz Edition. And what that means is that its intended application is for Dranitz products. So PQView DE replaced Encore Series software, or ESS, that got deprecated about 3 years ago. So PQView DE is our current version, although it supports all of the instrumentation of ESS, all of our older signature systems, 61000s, but also our newer products, such as the HDPQ data node, the PQ3K, 5K, and other products. So it has replaced ESS and has evolved into new capabilities. But PQView DE is PQView at its core. Because of that, it has that same modern user interface with the responsive design. And you can see a picture of that down at the bottom, where you can see that image on a tablet with a larger screen, and you can see how that is shrunk down a little bit on a smaller screen, which is on a smartphone. So really, DE is system software, and quite frankly, PQView operates in the same way with different components. So the job of software such as this is to collect data from remotely installed meters, store it into a database, which happens to be an SQL database for PQView DE, present the information to you and multiple users in a web browser interface. Again, it's just like any website, it's multi-user. You don't have to buy a client license for a desktop for DE nor do you have to do that for the full PQView. And it provides zooming, analysis, data exporting capabilities, as well as notification capabilities. So using PQView DE, or in fact PQView, you can get an email sent to you when particular events of interest occur to you from various meters. One of the big differences between DE and the full PQView DE is a unified installation. And what we mean is that you just install 2 files on your computer, 2 installations on your computer, one to set the core and one to set the application, and you're done. As we'll talk about in a couple slides, PQView is a little more complex to install because the full version of PQView has additional components beyond what's in PQView DE. Just some pictures. One way to identify the difference between PQView DE and PQView is simply the color. PQView DE has a blue color tone to match the Dranitz blue, and PQView or PQWeb, which is what it's called, the web interface for PQView, has kind of a maroonish red color tone. So when you see those, you can easily see the difference, and where maroon is Electrotech in the full PQView and blue is the PQView DE. So what are the differences between PQView and PQView DE? Again, DE is derived from PQView 4, and it's meant to be for Dranitz products. It runs a light version of SQL, which comes all encompassed in the installation, versus a full version of SQL that's required for PQView because it's a larger package, requires additional database capabilities. PQView DE uses a light web server. Again, that's included with the PQView DE installation, but PQView uses a full web server, such as Microsoft Internet Information Service. So the full PQView usually requires support from your IT department. The PQView DE does not, because it's a self-contained installation. And again, DE is intended for use with Dranitz instruments only. If you buy a Dranitz system, we will offer PQView DE. You can certainly choose PQView, but unless your needs go beyond Dranitz products, DE is probably the best choice unless you have a lot of monitoring points or require additional reporting. And PQView is intended for larger applications with other manufacturers' instruments in addition to Dranitz, and those requiring advanced analysis and reporting. So there are some hard lines between the software package, but there are some gray lines between these software packages. And again, we're happy to help you choose the right one for your application. One thing to note is that PQView DE and PQView Express, that entry-level version of PQView, they're really fundamentally the same. They share the same installation and the same database. Really, the major difference is that, again, DE is focused on Dranitz-only products. Express can have drivers for different manufacturers. It's part of its PQDMS, its data acquisition system. It's, of course, compatible with Dranitz, but we can provide drivers for other manufacturers as well. So again, even if you have a smaller installation, if you require communication with non-Dranitz products, your choice would be Express. If it's Dranitz only, your choice is PQView DE. But one thing to note, if you choose DE or even Express, there's a seamless upgrade from these packages to the full version of PQView as your needs grow. Okay, so we have a lot of customers who start smaller and grow into the larger applications of PQView as their needs grow as well. All right, so that's an important thing. Now, just to wrap it up before I turn it over to Thurman for the live demonstration, PQView, PQView DE applications include, of course, electric utilities and substations and transmission distribution customers, point of common coupling monitoring, things like that, as well as power factor correction capacitor studies. You'd be surprised the amount of customers who use our software for those applications. Fault location, smart grid, microgrid, DER, or distributed energy resource things, as well as non-utility applications such as industrial, mission critical, and manufacturing. So the applications of PQView, PQView DE are very wide based, and really it depends upon what types of meters you have and where your meters are installed and for what purposes. So with that being said, Thurman, I will give you sharing rights if you need it, and feel free to take over.
Thank you, Ross. That was quite informative, and I hope that the takeaway from these slides to the audience, and by the way, hello again, where you are on this planet. It's good to talk to you again. If those that I have not talked to before, welcome. But hopefully the takeaway from the slides that Ross presented will give you a better idea of the differences between PQView DE, the Durant's edition of PQView, and of course, PQView itself. I'm going to take you through a tour of both platforms. Now, it'll be a relatively quick tour. If there is an interest for more in-depth presentation on either software platform, we can certainly schedule a meeting to present that. So hopefully everyone can see my screen here. And
yep,
I believe
you're good
I
there.
am sharing. Good, excellent. So our first tour is we're going to take a tour of PQView DE. And again, as Ross pointed out in his presentation, this is the Durant's edition of PQDE. The first thing, if you are an existing ESS user, ESS was the predecessor to DE. It was basically the software platform that was used for our fixed monitoring products, as you saw in one of the slides there for our fixed monitoring. ESS was the software platform at that time. Now, one of the reasons why DE now exists, and this is a very important thing to keep in mind, is that ESS depended on Java. In other words, ESS was a web application. A web application means that the visualization tool that you would use to analyze the data, generate reports, set up instruments, that tool was a web browser. Well, the web browser needed to support Java plugins. I think today, IE, Internet Explorer, is probably the only web browser that will still support Java plugins, as all the other web browsers, Java plugins have been discontinued. So with PQView, and in particular PQView DE, which we're about to go into, it's no longer dependent on Java. So those that have Java security issues, or those that want to move away from Java, which what we're seeing today, again, the DE version of PQView fits nicely into that. So we're going to go ahead and log in, and just like it's a web application, and what that simply means that the benefit to the user is that any workstation, any device that has access to a server that has been designated as the DE server or PQView server, if you have access to that server, either through a local area connection or WAN connection or even the internet connection, such as in this example here, this DE server is actually a public IP or a public URL located in this address bar here. So in this example here, we're actually accessing a DE web server from the internet. So there's different configurations, different architecture, depending on what your application is. But we're going to go ahead and log in. And I have a specific login that I use for this. And so we're going over the internet, and if I can type, let's try it again. All right, so apparently I didn't have too many cups of coffee, so I'm in good shape. So from the initial screen here, there's a lot of information that jumps out at you as far as this particular site. You typically have 4 windows which provide data. One is your event summary. You can almost call it that, an event summary with a site name. A site means an instrument or device that's been added to the system. The date and time in which you had your most recent event or fault. And then it gives you a graphical view of that fault and the type of fault. And a transient is a very common type of event that occurs within one, we call it a subcycle event. The instrumentation, depending on the settings, can record transient faults that can be minute. At first glance, you may say, hey, it doesn't look like it. It's a transient, looks pretty sinusoidal. but there's actually minute changes from waveform to waveform. And depending on how sensitive the instrument is programmed to, it can actually capture those as events. But as you see here, you have your event list, you have more detail of an event that you may have selected just simply by clicking on the radio button here. It's another type of event. I can scroll down. This is like these all are recent events. It also gives me a health status as far as the monitors themselves or the meters that are in the system, what their status is. You can see in this case here, we have Encore 61000 series that's basically downloading data at this point. And then there's some other devices as well. So the initial login, you get a lot of information as far as what's going on within the system. And to Ross's point about the responsive web design, here on this display, this is a full display, but if I were to change it, you can actually see that it automatically adapts to my display size. So when you hear, if you're reviewing any literature on DE and PQView and you see the bullet that says responsive, web design, that's an example of that. So from the title bar here, you have these functions. You can see it's pretty simplified as far as getting access to data. Of course, we're in a home page here, but you have here under analytics, this allows you to view any stored data, because if you think about it, in this case, the Dranitz meters and some Modbus devices, which is what DE can support, you're basically going to record two types of data. You're going to record historical data, and that can be data logs and faults, and you're going to have what we call real-time data. So under analytics, we're looking for any stored data, historical data. And it really depends on the application. If we're simply looking for trend data, and those that have used ESS, for example, you can see that the interface, the user interface, is entirely different. It's more monitoring than what ESS is. But in this example here, you have your drop down, which are your sites, and these are the individual meters that are in the system. And I can select a particular meter just by one or more, actually, which is an improvement over the previous software platform. But for demo purposes, we'll select one. You then choose the type of report. And by the way, the system will allow the user to create their own custom report. These are basically canned reports. One of the most common is a voltage report. And here you choose a range. So you can see basically the ranges that you can select here, or you can be more precise and choose a start date and an end date. So you get this nice user interface that's very intuitive as far as allowing you to select a range. And then it's just a matter of submit. And now this request is actually going against the SQL database that Ross alluded to earlier. Now we can clearly see in this illustration here that we had some periods in which the meter was offline, but you get the general gist of it where it's showing a trend of a particular parameter over a period of time. Now, initially, it gives us what's called a static display. The static display basically just allows you to view the data. You can't do anything with it. Of course, if you want to perform typical functions like zoom or derive other information just from the information here, then you would go into what is called an interactive chart. An interactive chart will basically allow me now to do things such as zoom using the old click and drag technique as far as zooming in on a particular point. I can export data out to various different formats. If it's something that you want to send as an email attachment to an interested party, you can do that. So you see, you have your different export functions. And of course, let's go to reset zoom. All right. So this is an example of viewing trend data. Now, this could very well be, instead of a voltage report, it might be something else. And we'll just because it's a browser interface, we can simply use our forward and reverse back buttons on our browser, which is very convenient. But I may decide that I want another type of report. And you can see the various different type of reports here. It might be for active KW. And again, the procedure is the same. You select the range. If I say today, for example, oops, it's still downloading. So let's select, let's go with this guy. Nope, this one. So again, this is a different type of report. This is a report for active power, active KW. Again, you can use these canned reports, or you can basically customize your own report or develop your own report. And I'll show you a quick tour on how one would do that. Again, if you're going to derive different charts based on the initial chart, you have what is called derived charts. Here you can select the chart type that you want to derive. It might be a histogram. You might want to stack it, how you view the data. So here in this mode here, we're stacking as opposed to overlay. So, and this is based on just the trend data. Okay, and you have other advanced features here where you can individually go in and select channels. Maybe in this report here, this canned report, you don't want min, max, and average. Maybe you just want the average. And so by using the advanced feature, I can go in and I can select, I can remove, I can add channels. As you see here, this canned report basically gives me these channels. But if I simply want to configure it for something, say just total, which would be a very valid request, and then I submit, now it updates and gives me the totals. And again, the benefit here, even though this is the poor example because it's choppy, and I apologize for that, but sometimes I don't have control over the meters and what they do to the meters. But
Hey, Thurman, excuse me, if I could just add, I'm not quite sure if you mentioned this, but this is actually a demonstration system on our service entrance. This is our Edison manufacturing building, and meters are constantly coming off and online as we do our development. So that's the reason for the gaps here. So continue. I'm sorry.
Thank you. But the benefit here is using the web interface, and this is the web interface for PQView, is PQView DE, I should say, is it allows me to view from any device, workstation, tablet, phone that has access to the server. So the benefit is there, I do not have to install another software platform on another workstation to have access to this data. So that's the benefit of it. You can have multiple users logging in simultaneously. Each user might be doing a different function. So it's not one of those software platforms where if someone is currently logged in, everybody else is logged out. So you can share the data, you can do things of that nature. That's the benefit of having a web application. But if we were going to view data from another perspective, fault data, for example, under the Analytics tab, you have events. And for events, we would select a site. Okay, site could be any of the monitors that are in the system here. Let's stick with our 61,000 demo. We then select the type of report. So you can actually be selective. For example, if I'm simply looking for any SAG events, the most common PQ event that occurred upline, if these monitors are hung on our mains, the point of common coupling. So if I want to see if there's any SAGs that occurred upline, which means occurred from the utility, I can be more selective. So you can think of this as almost like a filter. But let's go in and select all events for our demonstration. And again, the the procedure is the same. I can select the range from the available ranges in my drop down. Okay, so that's the same, as well as if I wanted to be more specific, if I'm looking at what happened within the last hour or the last couple of days, you know, I can be more specific here. And then it's just a matter of submitting the query to the database. And we can see here in the last 7 days. And let's do something. Let's go to another site. And again, I have the ability to load multiple sites. Let's use this site here. So what's going on here? All right, we'll try one more. So here is your event list. And obviously it's the monitor or the device that recorded the data, the date and time in which it occurs, the event type, and then it gives you min and max data as far as the event itself. And then of course you have your charts that are associated with an event, the static chart, just by simply clicking on the icon, it loads the event. Now, again, just like with most events, it loads it as a static page. And then of course, you have export options, okay, these various different formats. You have an interactive mode where you actually want to interact with the chart. And what this allows you to do is, obviously you can do the typical zoom and pan and things of that nature, but you can also derive other charts based on waveform data. And by going to this drop down here and then selecting the different chart types, you know, I can do things like phasor. I can do spectrum charts and phasors. That's a common one that people will use. And just from the waveform data, I can get these charts. And again, all this is done within the web browser. There's no special app that you have to load in order to do those things. The other thing that the system does is, just like the predecessor of ESS, it has what are called answer modules. And these answer modules will usually appear, let's go back one more step here from our drop down. Load the page. So this is over the internet, so obviously it's a little slow, but any answer module information is included in this line here next to the actual event itself. And it'll actually give you a symbol telling if it's upline or downline and so forth. So that's the other useful information. Then of course, the other that you have is real time. Most people want to be able to see real-time data, you know, my voltage, current, my active power, what are they doing? And of course, now you have this interface. And if you contrast it to the ESS platform, you'll see that it's vastly different. But here it's just a matter of selecting a meter. In this case here, we select a meter, or you can select multiple meters. And then a function. In this case here with the meter panel. So the system is loading, it'll load the user interface. Here we have meters called the Edison 2. We can basically go in and we'll keep it simple. We'll select voltage, and maybe on our PQ3000 that Ross mentioned earlier, we'll select current. We then choose how often we want to update. We can say 30 seconds, or we can choose something less, let's say every 10 seconds, and then you begin to poll. And every 10 seconds, it'll provide real-time information. So you see in this example here, for this particular meter, for voltage, we have a 208/120 service, and then we're monitoring just current in the PQ3K. Now, you can have as many meters as your display will allow, as far as viewing real-time data. So that's an example of real-time. Now, one of the main differences that Ross alluded to several times during the presentation is, you know, when one makes the choice over DE versus PQView. And, you know, it's really, you really ask the one question is, in addition to drainage meters, are there any other devices in which you want to incorporate and have this multi-vendor system? So not just being exclusively drainage, but maybe having some other meters and other data sources incorporated into the same software platform as well. That would be the distinction between whether it's a DE application or a PQView application. And here's a prime example. Since we're in the DE platform, if I go to, and again, you know, one questions that I get very often is there a separate application that I need to be able to set up the meters, set up thresholds and things of that nature? And the answer is no, it is all incorporated into the DE platform. And the way I would accomplish that is under the system menu. And by going to setup, we'll give it a second for it to log. Here I can set things for notifications. So just like the predecessor, the Encore series software that can send, actually it's been expanded in DE where you can have email notifications for events, for monitor notifications, and things of that nature. So yes, the email notification is still there, still exists in the DE platform. But just going back to where you would see the difference here, one of the major difference, we'll just go back, we'll hit our back button. Answer modules, as I said before, that what has made the drainage instrumentation very popular is the answer modules. These are the software algorithms that are built into the instrument's operating system. We have answer modules that will tell you sag directivity, cap switch. So there's multiple answer modules. These also have been included in the DE platform. But if I go to monitors, for example, and here you will see the, we'll allow this to load. Here are the monitors that are currently in the system now, the different monitor types. Yes, HDPQ. The HDPQ portable is the real workhorse of the portable instrumentation that we offer from Drainage. But you know, one of the and being the most versatile, it actually has supports communication. So I can actually add an HDPQ monitor, whether it's a portable or an SP, to a DE system or a PQView system and treat it as if it was a semi-permanent or a permanent monitor. We do have customers out there that are using the portable HDPQ monitor in that manner. But here you see the monitor types, and notice what they have in common. They're all Drainage monitors, okay? So if we were going to add other monitors to the system, and by clicking on the down arrow here, here are the monitor types. Okay, so we even go back to the old legacy signature system data nodes, if you will, the old Drainage energy monitors. It even supports those. These are basically called data handlers. And so obviously we have data handlers that support the old legacy Drainage monitors. If they're still around, a lot of people have basically transitioned to the new monitors, which are the 61,000 series. So you can see the 61,000 series. They're even the old legacy energy meters, which are the ES meters. And then of course the HDPQ monitor, the newer general purpose monitors, which are the PQ3K series. Yes, we do support Modbus enabled devices, both Modbus RTU and Modbus TCP. We do support PQDiff. So any device that supports PQDiff, we can actually import PQDiff files into a DE application. Now, if you come along and you tell me that you have a device that maybe supports ComTrade, which is another standard industry protocol, then it would not be a fit for DE. You would need to transition up, starting with PQView, PQView Express, or the other versions of PQView. Another question that's asked is, the number, how many monitors or how many devices will an installation of PQDE supports. We generally say around 100, but it really depends on the monitor type. You know, for example, the 61,000 series data nodes, you know, obviously they're a little bit more complex. They fall in the category of what we call advanced monitors. So if you want to be a little bit more conservative and go with something less, something like the PQ3K or PQ5K monitors, they're general purpose monitors, so there's not advanced, so you have a tendency to go closer to the 100. So theoretically, we say 100, but again, depending on the number of meters and the meter type, kind of have to use your judgment. You know, again, the more advanced meters, you want to be a little bit lower. The more less sophisticated meters, you can actually go a little bit higher. Okay, but this is it. This is as far as the number, the different device types that DE will support. This is it. This is one of the major differences between it and PQView, and I'll show you that in just a second. Other things that you have real quickly, the system keeps track of logs. So if for any type of troubleshooting and things of that nature, you can always go in and view the logs. You know, here's an example of a log. Since I'm there, I might as well. The log, you can be selective as far as the date range, the logs. You can see the different things that are going on within the system and which data nodes it was involved. This is clearly a scenario where the server is constantly attempting to keep the monitor in sync here. So oftentimes there might be issues where the system might be acting a little flaky, or maybe not as the behavior, unexpected behavior, you call tech support. The first thing we'll ask you as far as the what's the viewing of the logs and seeing what's going on with the system. Now, the system does allow administrative privileges, and administrative privileges is actually performed in another site. This is the admin website. So the admin website allows, you can think of the admin website, and this is part of DE, this is part of PQView, but you think of the admin website as basically the traffic cop for either a DE system or a PQView system. It controls everything. It controls permissions, it controls viewer access, it has restrictions and things of that nature. And just to kind of give you a quick view, I won't spend a whole lot of time here, but you'll see that the user, okay, if I could just remember the password, okay, should be good here. This is the user interface. This is the home page. And if you're setting up things like email notification, this allows you to set email notifications, your SNTP server, and all the credentials that you would need to set up email notification. It does support some of the NERC zip password compliances and things of that nature. So that's an example. Going to home. If I was going to add other users to the system, you know, it's a very popular request or function that we see in fixed systems, is that you generally would have one or two individuals that have administrative access, they have full access over the system, and then you would have a general username or password where the user would just have viewer privileges. Well, this is done in the administrative site. And so the administrative site, you know, if I was going to add a user, it would be a matter of just going in, creating a user, and that user can be a user or a recipient. If they're a recipient, that means that they're eligible to receive email notifications and things of that nature. Resources, the one common denominator that the DE version of PQView, I'll just state it that way, and PQView are the internal components. Each software is a multi-component platform. a lot of the components are very similar to or almost identical to each other. So when you think about the components, there's the database that Ross mentioned earlier. PQView actually installs an instance of MS SQL 2014. PQView DE also installs a web server, and then there's other components such as web services. There's the component that is responsible for polling the meters and storing the data in the PQ measurement database. So you have a lot of different components that work together as one. And those individual components between DE and PQView are almost identical. Now there's some, PQView obviously being the higher tier has some additional components, but when you break it down to its basics, a lot of the components that I just mentioned are identical to each other. Here's an example of one where you can set the resources. Here's the database. Here is the DMS. DMS is it's the second most important component in PQView and PQView DE because it handles the polling of information from, third-party meters, stranded meters, etc. So these are just some of the things. Now, reporting, if you were going to create your own report, these are the, for example, data log reports. Here's a typical, when I'm in PQView DE and I select data logs and I select the report type, this is where this information is coming from. Now I can go in and I can edit a report, I can clone a report, I can create a new report, depending on what the application is. Here's what a RMS voltage report looks like. That canned report that you see when you're using the data logs. Here are the channels that it's using. You can see it gives us the single channel and the phase-to-phase channels. I can simply use these drop downs to go in and configure a report for a given application. So that's a tour of the admin site. And then quickly, I'm going to jump on to PQView. Let's close this. Right away, you see the difference, as Ross alluded to earlier, the color. It's a different color scheme that's used for PQView. The portal in which you would use to interface with the system for viewing data, real-time historical data, setting up instruments, it's what's called PQWeb. Now, this PQView server is actually internal to our company. So it's actually located on a virtual machine in our data center. That's another question that comes up as well. Will PQView run on a virtual machine? The answer is yes. In fact, the trend these days is a lot of people going to virtualization. Another common question that comes up is the system requirements. PQView, PQView DE, starting with Windows 10 all the way up to Windows Server 2019. All those platforms are capable of running either PQView DE or PQView. I would never attempt to run PQView or PQView DE on a Windows 7 or lesser OS. So that's the other thing.
Excuse me. Yeah, those aren't supported by Microsoft anymore, so we wouldn't support them either.
Good point, Ross. So the login for PQ, in this case, PQView via the PQWeb4 portal. The admin is my username, and then of course the password. You all can probably guess what the password is, but you can't get to the server anyway. So it's admin. There you go. I let it out. So
now I know I can get to it.
I don't care if you get to it. So here you see that the home page is similar. Now there are some differences. PQView has the option of allowing you to display a map. This map here represents a DRANIS monitor. The map that Ross showed you earlier where we're located, this probably looks very similar. Here's New York. Here's Edison where we are. And Philadelphia, where I reside, which is north of Philadelphia, is located down here. So the whole idea about this, and again, this sort of lends into applications in which one would typically use PQView. And the other thing that I would mention is the type of installation that PQView supports. PQView DE and PQView Express is what we call a single site installation or a single server installation, which means all the components for PQView DE and PQView Express are installed on the same machine. The MS 2014 Express, the web server, everything is installed on the same machine. When you go above the Express version of PQView, it now supports what is called a distributed installation. So a distributed installation might be something like where you have a separate SQL server, you have a separate application server, things of that nature. So if there is an application in which instead of having everything installed on a single server, then you're automatically a candidate for either the standard or the professional versions of PQView, because the standard or professional. The Express and PQView DE does not support what we call a distributed installation. So that's very important to remember. But as you see here, the interface is very similar. There are some subtle differences here. But as far as visualizing the data, it's pretty much the same. Now you have some differences here where you can view fault events. So this is more or less, you can think of them as filters. We have some EN 5160 reporting. You can actually have what are called site maps, a SAG map, or you can create map files from applications like Google Earth, and then have your meters plotted in a particular region or area where you, instead of having everything within one facility, you might have an application in which you have meters scattered out over multiple substations. So again, this sort of lends into PQView's capability where you really don't have that in the DE version. So the analytics and the real time, the approaches are pretty much the same. What I really wanted to emphasize on, and again, seeing it visual resonates a lot more than just talking about it. And here it is here. So if I go to setup, and again, we support the answer modules, notifications, so email notifications, all those things, they all come into play. But if we go to monitors, for example, and again, we're going to load our monitor page, and you can see it is actually working now. So through my connection, through the internet and through the Zoom, it takes a little while, but eventually we get there. And here you can see that it's much different than that of DE. You can see here I have the different monitor types, and some of these names you might even recognize as far as third party. You know, Snyder, for example, some of the SATEC meters, ComTrade, PSL, for example, PQDiff, some of the Nexus meters you guys might even recognize. You know, to Ross's point earlier, the ability to import data from third-party devices, not only third-party devices, but third-party software platforms. What I mean by that, if I go to the drop down here, you can see this is much more expansive than that of DE. Yes, we still support some of the legacy hardware, such as the signature system data nodes, even some of the Camille Bauer meters. But as you see, as we go down here, you can see this is where it starts to expand here. We get into some of the SATEC meters, the Snyder electric meters. And what I mean by a third-party platform or software is the iGrid system. We can actually interface with an iGrid system. We can even interface with the old ESS Infinode system. Yeah, that would probably be used in what I would call the interim basis, where eventually you're going to transition all the way to PQView, but maybe in the interim you might have one or more ESS systems that are out there, and so in the interim you'll probably work with that, but eventually you will have them all under a PQView system. But I mean, this is one of the main reasons or I should say one of the main differences between the two is that the ability to support third party. We can also integrate with SCADA systems such as the Pi system from OSI Soft. We can integrate with those as well. We see that a lot with our utility customers, having the ability to include fault data as well as SCADA data in the same graph, on the same page. This all can be accomplished in PQView. The other thing that Ross mentioned earlier was Fallpoint. Fallpoint is available at the PQView level. Fallpoint allows you to, it's all about fault location. And so what PQView does in a typical fault location scenario, Fallpoint basically calculates what we call the RTF, reactive to fault. It plots it against a feeder model. So you might have a feeder model like SimDis or Synergy, and it'll basically give you the details of where the fault occurs. Some of our biggest utility customers, such as Consolidated Edison, that's really the crown jewel of their PQView system. The other things are pretty much similar, as you have your logs, so you set up, you have the options. Now this only, and again, this sort of lends into the multiple component feature of both platforms that's been mentioned throughout our presentation here, is that software platform uses MS SQL as its database. We know that what we talked about, we know that the Express versions and the Dranitz edition of PQView installs their own version of MS SQL, namely SQL Express 2014. In PQView standard and to the professional levels, you would use a retail version of SQL. So, and again, it can be SQL 2012 all the way up to the SQL 2019. So again, that lends into the versatility of a PQView platform. The other thing that the PQView platform is capable of doing is reading multiple SQL databases simultaneously. Where in the Express and DE versions, it's just one database, one measurement database, one administrative database. In a PQView standard or PQView professional, again, you still have the administrative database because you still have to grant permissions and authorizations and things of that nature. So you still have the administrative database, but you can also have multiple SQL databases and you can read them all as one. Also with PQView, the PQView level, standard and professional, you can install multiple instances of what we call PQDMS. And again, PQDMS is sort of it is the component that basically polls the third-party devices, third-party platforms, and stores the data in databases that it's assigned to. This allows you, when you have multiple instances of SQL, this allows you to add many more data nodes to a PQView system, where in the DE and in the Express versions of PQView, we kind of use that 100 limit capability as far as the cutoff. In PQ Standard and PQ Professional, you can literally have thousands of devices using that same scheme. So I think that is all that I will touch on now. Again, I would say if there's an interest to where we want to have a more in-depth presentation on either software platforms, let us know. We can schedule another meeting and we can go over some of the more intricate details in which time doesn't permit here. That concludes my presentation. If there are any questions, please just chat them up and we will address the questions. And I will now pass this back to our moderator. And it's great talking with you guys again.
Very good. Thanks so much, Thurman. Nice job. One question that did come up, I've been privately chatting with people about the costs of PQView. PQView is more or less not engineered, but configured for your particular application. So without knowing specifics about an application, it's hard for us to give an accurate estimate on cost. So if you are interested in PQView, just let us know. We're happy to work with you. And really, it's a process of understanding your needs, number of points, types of meters, how you want to see information, because it can be configured for your particular type of application. PQView DE is on the Dranitz price list. So contact your local Dranitz representative or contact us directly, and that's more of a direct quote that's more easily done related to the number of Dranitz monitoring points that you wish to have in your system, and other things that are more understandable than the overall more complicated PQView system. So we do have some questions here. Is there software to analyze the recorded data on X power quality?
X power quality. What does that mean?
I really don't know. Elaine, can you please chat up a little more description and elaborate on what that question is? And I don't know if you mean beyond power quality. And if that's the case, the focus of PQView at this point is on the power quality information. So Elaine, if you could just please chat up a little bit more clarification. Example power quality is what he means. So again, I don't quite understand. The purpose of PQView is to analyze the power quality data that you do get. It does a very good job of doing it. However, it's limited to some extent the amount of data and the type of data that you get. If you get a very low end PQ meter that doesn't provide wave shapes or things like that, it's hard for PQView to extrapolate on that information. If you get a higher end meter, such as the Dranitz products that can provide wave shapes, well then those wave shapes give PQView a lot of ability to do additional analytics on them and the derived charts that Thurman was showing us and things like that. So yes, the main capability is for PQView, hence its name, is in the power quality analytics and providing that.
If I can also add that'll link to that question is in the standard and professional versions of PQView, which obviously we didn't have time to illustrate those. As it relates to power quality, we can what's called advanced power quality analysis, where you can determine things like PQ indices like SARFI and SADI and things of that nature. We have those versions of PQView have the ability to provide that type of data. And again, if it's something that you're interested in and you want another meeting to delve into that, we can certainly do that as well.
All right, thanks, Thurman. And Gonzalo asks, is PQView compatible with smart energy meters? The generic answer is yes. It really depends upon the way the data comes out, but it is compatible with certain smart meters. And the nice thing about PQView, if there's a requirement, PQView could be molded, and the PQ DMS specifically can be adapted to new types of meters. There's a cost for that, of course. It doesn't come for free per se, but it can certainly be developed. And quite candidly, that's how the large list of compatible meters has gotten developed over the years with PQView, starting with PQView 3, and now certainly with PQView 4. So
excellent point.
As the need grows, yes. Yep. So as the need grows, we add them either on our own per se. We see the need as we have a business case for it, to be quite honest with you, or our customers and say, well, hey, listen, I'd like to buy it, but can you please add this? And we come up with an agreement on how to do that. Gonzalo, if you have a specific requirement, just reach out to us and we'll be happy to talk to you about that. So I think that's it for the chats right now. Thurman, unless you had anything else to bring up, we'll just hang out here for a few minutes and respond to any chat questions that we do see. So no, Thurman, you have anything else?
No, I think, given the time that we had, obviously I can talk until people just say, Thurman, just please stop. But
which I did.
Again, no, I would reiterate the fact, if there's interest as far as, let's pulling back some of the later layers of PQView DE, just let us know, and we can schedule another meeting and delve into that. So
Okay, good. Well, thank you, Thurman. Nice job, Thurman. Thank you to everyone. Again, as I said before, this is our final presentation of 2020. I think we had a total of 14. We will be producing a total of 13 recordings. We have 12 recordings posted, and it'll be 13 after today's recording is posted. And go look under the support tab on our website under the webcast if you missed a prior recording. Again, as I also said, please send up suggestions for additional topics to cover. We're always interested in that. We went into applications this time, and if you have different applications that you'd like us to focus on, I think we've covered 5 of them so far. So anyway, we'll be here for a few minutes to receive any of your chat questions, where you can certainly contact us directly. Thank you so much. Stay safe and happy holidays to everyone. Bye-bye.
Absolutely. Same here. Happy holidays, everyone.